Good morning from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. It's 11:06 a.m. on the 2nd of December 2024, Monday. Happy birthday to a very special friend. I hope you have a wonderful day. And what else can I tell you? It's a murky day out here. It's sort of partially sunny, but then very cloudy and greyish in places. And I've got workmen out on the road. I think they're replacing all the gas lines, and so that's annoying. And they're going to eventually come to my house because I have to move the gas meters. So that's going to be annoying, but I'll just stay out of their way as I usually do. And yes, it's a lovely day. It's a day. It's a day in the space-time continuum. So Charlie didn't want to come out of her cage and join us for our story reading, so she knows her own mind. And I've made a nice cup of tea. And yes, it's all happening at Sacred Space. I need to strip my beds and do all my washing, but it keeps raining. But I think later on I might get in there and pull everything apart, and we might get a few hours of sunshine, enough to get me to get all the bed linen dry, or not. I guess I can always wash it tomorrow. But I need to change my sheets. It's imperative. It's imperative, people of Earth. So that's the mundane orders of the day, and the sun's really starting to break through now. It's piercing. That's actually hurting my eyeballs. So there's that. So let us continue with the fourth voyage of Sinbad, the sailor. Know, O my brethren, that after my return from my third voyage and foregathering with my friends and forgetting all my perils and hardships in the enjoyment of ease and comfort and repose, I was visited one day by a company of merchants who sat down with me and talked of foreign travel and traffic, till the old bad man within me yearned to go with them and enjoy the sight of strange countries. And I longed for the society of the various races of mankind, and for traffic and profit. Trying to think where I could travel to and make a profit. It would cost me a fortune to travel anywhere. I usually end up broke at the end of a holiday. I don't profit by any of it, except experience and meeting new people and seeing new sights. But, well, he was kind of a merchant, so I guess he was profiting while he was travelling because he was selling as he went. So there is that. It makes sense then, doesn't it? So I resolved to travel with them, and buying the necessaries for a long voyage and great store of costly goods, more than ever before, because he's gradually becoming wealthier and wealthier, transported them from Baghdad to Basora, where I took ship with the merchants in question, who were of the chief of the town. We set out, trusting in the blessing of Almighty Allah, and with a favouring breeze and the best conditions, we sailed from island to island and sea to sea, till one day there arose against us a contrary wind, and the captain cast out his anchors and brought the ship to a standstill, fearing lest she should founder in mid-ocean. I'm trying to work out how an anchor could, because in deep sea, where would the anchor land in to, reach the bottom, to tether you to the bottom of the sea? I guess it's the weight pulling down on the ship that keeps it some kind of balance. I mean, in modern days we have stabilisers on ships, don't we? Or equalisers or some such technology. However, when we pass the Cape of Good Hope, going around the west coast of South Africa, those are the roughest seas pretty much on the ocean, and everyone was vomiting but me, because I was a kid and I thought it was marvellous, the pitching and tossing of the fair star as we journeyed around the African continent on our way to the Canary Islands. Everyone was vomiting. Brown paper bags lining up all the causeways, all the corridors. I said to my mother, what's going on here? She said, they've all got seasickness, Tanya. I said, what's that? You'll find out, Tanya. And everybody I looked at had bright green faces, and they were, what? And the ship would go up and down to the down, and I loved it. I loved it. It did get a bit scary at one point though, when it was jumping up a little bit too dramatically, but I loved it. But that's the thing with children. They don't know what they don't know, so everything's exciting, stimulating, fun, an adventure. If it weren't for the predatory fucking ship's crew on that ship, it would have been the voyage of a lifetime, almost enjoyable. Oh, but never mind, we won't go into that ghastly horror because it'll just set me back for the rest of the day. And I want to focus on my beautiful life with my beautiful man and my beautiful friends and my beautiful, wow, what's left of it? There is no actual, man in my life per se. There's multiple men, my platonic friends. I don't even know why I said that. That was a bit out of left field, wasn't it? Well, I'm manifesting people away. I'm manifesting, thinking positive. I do have beautiful men in my life who are wonderful to me. My friend Jared, my psychiatrist, my friends in the band. Haven't seen my friend Peter for quite some time. He was also, when he stopped trying to fight me at every turn, became a wonderful friend. But only after Jared said to him, you will never get anywhere with Tanya by negging her. What he said? Have I been using the wrong approach this whole time? Jared just went, too much abuse makes me fiery and a very fine hair trigger. But anyway, once he got over that shock, it was stirring me up in quite nasty ways at times. Don't even know why I maintained the bridge. Well, I was very fond of his elderly mother, so there was that. And he did used to come and catch snakes for me, but I didn't get him to come all the way from Waterford West to catch Sybil, because I realised Sybil wasn't really all that active and wasn't going to be a threat to me, and she could just lie there and strut his stuff, and he was greatly amused when I told him about that. But yeah, I must give them a ring, because I'm very fond of his partner Robin too, and I haven't spoken to them for a few weeks. If you don't maintain contact with your friends, people of Earth, on a regular basis, you lose them over time. They drift away. It's human nature. It's true of everyone, everywhere in the known multiverse. Communicate, maintain contact. Unless you really don't like someone and you want them out of your life, that's a fish of a different colour, but it is what it is, people. Where was I? Talking about beautiful men in my life. Right, now moving on from that, because I have beautiful women in my life too. Had a long chat to my friend Jackie yesterday, and I'm very excited because she got an invitation from her son to come up to Brisbane and spend Christmas with him and his family. And he lives at Hammett, which is only about 20 minute drive from me. So I'll get to meet Jackie because we're close enough that I'll make the effort to go and see her, or she'll come to me, or we'll go and have a meal somewhere. I avoid Christmas per se, but she's arriving before Christmas, so she can have Christmas with her son, and I'll see her in the days leading up to it, or the day out, so after. So Christmas and I are like a shit show and a horror movie right there on the TV. So it's because of my issues. So yeah, but I look forward to meeting her and spending lovely time getting to meet her in person. We've known each other since Pal Talk days, which we're talking over 20 years ago, when I was very, very consistently on that chat program in the spiritual psychic mediumship rooms. It was those were the days, my friend. Could be very intense. Jackie used to come in because all the Americans and the Brits would be ganging up on me. They didn't like me for some reason. Psychedelic dreamer. They thought I was some loser or some misfit. I don't know what their problem was. I'd never claimed to be a psychic in those days either, because, hadn't really opened up all that much in my abilities, and was mainly going there so that I could receive readings. But if people asked me for basic commonsensical advice, I'd tell them. Often they didn't like it. The truth is the truth, whether you like it or not, people of Earth. So I made a few enemies for being blunt and truthful. They decided that I was some arsehole, and that's okay. I don't care. I don't mind the slightest bit being called an arsehole for being factual and truthful and telling people how things really are. Sometimes I had my own room there for a while in Pal Talk, so it's called Dreamers and Believers, and I would sometimes discuss my dreams that I have, because that's why I'm a psychedelic dreamer. I don't do drugs, but I dream in Technicolor very often. Not so much now as I'm getting older, but when I was younger, I could have written whole mini-series and movies from my dreams. They were that intense. So that's how I came to call myself psychedelic dreamer when I was choosing a nickname for Pal Talk. Actually, no, it was a little bit more sweeter than that. I was sitting down in front of my desktop and I said to Spirit, I don't know what to call myself, what my nickname should be. And I put my head down and I just let my mind go blank, and I heard it distinctly. Your name is Psychedelic Dreamer, because that's what you do and who you are, and you dream and kind of occasionally have precognitive dreams. So they said it's a perfect nickname for you, and I was astonished, absolutely astonished how that thought just bang, the muse popped into my head. So I signed on to Pal Talk as Psychedelic Dreamer, and then after a while, just for a bit of a change and shits and giggles, because people were changing their nicks left, right and centre, and I found it astonishing because I could recognise who they were even under different nicks, because I was picking up on their energy, but also some of them were a bit dumb and would forget to change the colour of their font and their writing style. And because I'm highly intelligent, no sooner they'd start typing into a room, I'd be like, oh, that's you, Libby. How do you know it's me, you bitch? I feel your energy, but actually it was because she had a distinct way of writing and expressing herself in the font colour. I said, mate, if you want to hide from me, you've got to change your font colour, and you've got to change your text, and you've got to change a lot of things, not just your nick. And she was like, I hate you, you bitch. Yeah, I hate you too, Lovey. She was from, I think she was from Liverpool. Yeah, she was a mad cow, but we kind of hated each other, but in the end we kind of had this real admiration and respect for each other too. It was odd. So, but yeah, as I said, I had a lot of enemies on that chat program, and there was a lot of cyberbullying. It was so bad that I became suicidal at one stage. What year was that? It was very, very bad. Actually, I was very unwell, and there was so many constant attacks that it became rather fraught and dangerous, to be honest. I'm trying to think what year that was. It was when I was under constant attack in my fucking living at Waterford West. So it would have been around 2000, 99, 2000. Oh, by the gods. No, that can't be right, because I only got my first computer in 1999 when David McSkimming died. Must have been around about 2003, something like that. Somewhat like that. But anyway, the bullying was intense, is what I wanted to say. Quite evil they could be at times. I stayed on that chat program for years. It was like a training ground, how to deal with the psychopaths and the narcopaths and the sociopaths and other sort of vermin. And I had a lot of support from, a few friends on there. And one of the beautiful friends that was supportive was my friend Jackie, whose nickname was Bomber. And Jackie at that time, years ago, was working as a cardiac nurse, literally bringing people back from the brink of death in theatre on heart patients. And she'd come in off her shift at something like 5 in the morning, having worked her arse off all night, saving people's lives. And there'd be me at 5 o'clock in the morning going, oh yeah, babies, I was dancing all night, I had a fantastic time. Oh, I threw some guy over my shoulder, I shucked another guy off. And all the Paltalkians, I call them Paltalkians in the room, the Yanks, the Brits, they would be like, oh, fuck off, psychedelic dreamer, you're such a loser, when are you going to get a job, when are you going to be responsible, when are you going to get a life? And I'd be like, oh yeah, fuck off, if you had a life like mine, you'd dance too. And then they'd kind of gang up on me though. And Bomber Jackie would come in and she'd go, listen here, you scurvy bloody lot, you fucking Yanks and you fucking bombs. She'd rip them a new arsehole. She'd say, I've been working, pumping people's hearts back together and defibrillating them, bringing them back from the jaws of death. And she said, and I'm delighted to hear Psychedelic Dreamer regale her interesting and colourful and wild stories about her nights out, which, by the way, were all true. And she said, she says, I'm fucking knackered, I'm home from my shift, I've had a cup of tea and toast, and here's Dreamer. And she said, it's made my entire night. And I'd be like, oh, bless, I love you so much, Jackie. Because she really did defend and protect me. She sometimes had to go from room to room, tell them all to fuck off and leave me alone, because they would follow me through different virtual rooms and harass me. Oh, she was a wonderful champion. I haven't forgotten Jackie. I never forget who my champions are. But anyway, we had a lot of fun actually. And of course there were other Australians on the chat program, Paltalk, some of them didn't like me either, but some did. Had a few nice friends that I actually met in person. Came for a party here I think the first and last party I had here, 2007. That party went on for 4 days. Oh, we had this bucket that was a punch, and it just kept emanating. It should have run out. I mean, there was 12 of us, and it just kept growing. I think just a mere male. His name was David. He's since passed away, unfortunately. I think he was putting extra booze in it because I didn't have any more money to keep feeding this. I called it the bucket of dew because it was the bucket the never-ending bucket that had no end. And we kept drinking it, but in the end, I think on day 4, it fucking fermented and it was frothing. And we all came out and we all looked at it and I went, I don't know about you, but I think the party's over. And they went, why? And I went, the bucket of doom is fucking fermenting. And they were like, oh my God, no. And I was like, do you think we should still drink it? Like, it probably wouldn't have hurt, would it? Then I'm not sure. We weren't sure if we were going to get food poisoning from fermented alcohol and fruit and God knows what was in that thing in the end. So we all decided that we'd enjoyed it long enough. It was like the Hanukkah miracle. It was supposed to only last for one night, but it lasted 4 days. Wow, it's amazing. It was just amazing. Oh, the other thing I made was a homemade. I haven't made it since actually because it's diabolical and fattening as hell. And Marty, Ivory Phoenix, she and I got into it. Oh my goddess, it was her idea actually. I made, homemade Bailey's Irish cream, but I had this big comes in a tin of like this big chocolate kind of sauce that you use to spread on cake and everything. And she looked at it and she says, I know you've made Bailey's. And she says, but how about, she looks at me with this twinkle in her eye. I'll never forget that. It was delightful. Got a beautiful butterfly landed on my screen and she's flapping her wings at me. That's got to be a sign, I don't know what of, but manifestation, people. But anyway, she just had this little twinkle in her eye. She says, how about we put that whole thing of chocolate in the Bailey's Irish cream? And I looked at her. I'd not long, only 2 months prior, had my dreadful, life-threatening, awful hysterectomy, bladder repair, prolapse, hitch, vagina repair, the whole lot. So that's partly why they all came for this party and celebration of me, yet again not fucking dying. But I still wasn't all that well. And but I said to her, oh Jesus, Marty, I said, if we put that whole thing of chocolate in that Bailey's Irish cream, you will kill me. And she just looked at me and she said, but what a way to die, psychedelic dreamer. And I was like, okay, Ivory Phoenix, let's do it, baby. So when we I still laugh about it to this day. And so it was this big jug of Bailey's / chocolate Irish cream. Oh, well, between her, me, it was meant to be for the whole party. None of the men got a look in. Her, me, Gail, someone else, one of the other women. We knocked off that whole thing in like an hour. It was gone. And then I looked at her and I went, it's all gone. What did we do? She goes, oh my God, Tanya. She said, that was the best thing I have ever tasted. I'm going to make it from now on. And I was like, oh no, I've created a monster. But look, we just had so much fun. It was just delightful. It really was. We sat around imbibing in a few other things that, some of us were imbibing in. And they were like, at one point, because I was with my ex-Courtney at the time, he came to that party. At one point, he was so drunk and so stoned. He was stoned, but he handled his drugs really well because he was seasoned. No, it was Kev. At one point, Kev was so drunk and so stoned, he was sitting beside me at the table, and he would just start leaning this way like he was going to fall off the chair. And Marty was laughing so much because he'd lean and then I'd just put one finger up and push him back upright and he would just be like, well, thanks, Tanya. And then after a while he'd go leaning again and I'd be like, don't you think you should lie down now, Ken? He went, No, I'll be right. And he got very offended by me referring to the never-ending bucket. It's like the never-ending story. He got upset that I referred to it as the bucket of doom. Well, it was the bucket of doom because it just wouldn't empty and we were all drunk for 4 days. And so it was delightful, but it was kind of our doom, you know. He said, don't you ever call it the bucket. He was from England. Don't you ever call it the bucket of doom again. What should I call it, Kat? It's the fucking bucket of joy. I went, you know what? I like how you reframed that reference. It really was the bucket of joy. But oh my God, it's killing us all. And when it started fizzing and frothing, we realised, yep, everyone has to go home now. The party's over. The source of our joy and delight has just fizzled and sizzled beyond the realms of ordinary mortal ken. But oh my goodness, that was a wonderful time. A wonderful time. Anyway, we'll continue with the Sinbad from the Sailor story. But I'm looking forward to, as I said, meeting Jackie in person. But it probably won't be a bucket of doom, Jackie, because you know I can't sustain that amount of alcohol intake anymore. My liver can't handle it. I have to be cautious of my health. But we'll probably imbibe in a tipple of something nice, you know. I'm not completely, what's the word, going to give up on our little joys and delights. But anyway, only because I can handle it, you know, because I'm not an alcoholic. If you're an alcoholic, it's a different story. But I'm just looking forward to having my little visit with her. Alcohol or no alcohol will be just as outrageous and joyous and delighting in each other's company, straight or under the influence of some little tipple. This is the thing about me. People often think that when I'm out dancing that I'm drunk, but I only limit myself to, I've limited it down to 3 drinks a night now because I've cut down. I was drinking 4 to 5 and, you know, with all the heavy moshing and the sweating and the writhing and the dancing, it puts too much of a load on my liver and puts a strain on me physically. So I've cut back, but I've gone out some nights, not in the last 15 months at the Brooklyn Standard because I like to pay my way. But I have been known to go out and not have any alcohol at all and just be wild and joyous and crazy and fun, and people have assumed that I'm drunk. So they'll come up, are you drunk? And no, I'm just happy. Can't you be happy without alcohol? You sad asses. And then they kind of laugh. So it's an art form to be able to manifest joy in all situations, and with or without alcohol, just so. But anyway, where were we? Yes, we stopped at, I was wondering how they were going to stabilise the ship with the anchors. The captain had dropped the anchors, brought the ship to a standstill, fearing that she should founder in mid-ocean and therefore would lose everybody on ship, right? Then we all fell to prayer and humbling ourselves before the Most High. But as we were thus engaged, there smote us a furious squall which tore the sails to rags and tatters. The anchor cable parted, and the ship foundering, we were cast into the sea, goods and all. I kept myself afloat by swimming half the day till, when I'd given myself up for lost, the Almighty threw in my way one of the planks of the ship, whereon I and some others of the merchants scrambled onto a plank, with some others of the merchants, and mounting it as we would a horse, paddled with our feet in the sea. We abode thus a day and a night, the wind and waves helping us on, and on the second day, shortly before the mid-time between sunrise and noon, the breeze freshened and the sea wrought, and the rising waves cast us upon an island, well nigh dead bodies for weariness and want of sleep, cold and hunger, and fear and thirst. Butterfly's back. Sweet, it's a very large butterfly. Going to get news today, I reckon. We walked about the shore and found abundance of herbs whereof we ate enough to keep breath and body and to stay our failing spirits. Then lay down and slept till morning, hard by the sea. And when morning came with its sheen and shone, we arose and walked about the island to the right and left, till we came in sight of an inhabited house afar off. So we made towards it, and ceased not walking, till we reached the door thereof, when, lo, a number of naked men issued from it, and without saluting us or a word said, laid hold of us masterfully, and carried us to their king, who signed us to sit. So we sat down, and they set food before us such as we knew not, and whose like we had never seen in all our lives. My companions ate of it, for stress of hunger, but my stomach revolted from it, and I would not eat, and my refraining from it was, by Allah's favour, the cause of my being alive till now. For no sooner had my comrades tasted of it, than their reason fled, and their condition changed, and they began to devour it like madmen possessed of an evil spirit. Then the savages gave them to drink of coconut oil, and anointed them therewith, and straightway after drinking thereof, their eyes turned into their heads, and they fell to eating greedily against their want. When I saw this, I was confounded and concerned for them, nor was I less anxious about myself, for fear of the naked folk. So I watched them narrowly, and it was not long before I discovered them to be a tribe of Magian cannibals, whose king was a ghoul, G-H-U-L. Do you want to know what a ghoul is? G-H-U-L? I suspect a kind of genie, but I could be wrong. Let's check on this. Let's check on this. G-H-U-L. Oh, it's the same as a ghoul. A demon-like being or monstrous humanoid often associated with graveyards. What does the word ghoul mean in Arabic? Modern Arabs use ghoul to designate a human or demonic cannibal, and frequently employ the word to frighten disobedient children. Anglicised as ghoul, G-H-O-U-L, the word entered English tradition and was further identified as a grave-robbing creature that feeds on dead bodies and on children, but it was originally a demonic cannibal. Well, that's where we got the word ghoul from. Found something out today, didn't we? Astonishing people of Earth. Should read fairy stories more often. Things you find out. All who came to their country, and whoso they caught in their valleys or on their roads, they brought to this king, and fed them upon that food, and anointed them with that oil, whereupon their stomachs dilated, that they might eat largely, whilst their reason fled, and they lost the power of thought, and became idiots. Then they stuffed them with coconut oil, and just very good for if you swill it, for cleaning your teeth and gums, getting rid of bacteria in your mouth. Then they stuffed them with coconut oil and the aforesaid food till they became fat and gross, when they slaughtered them by cutting their throats and roasting them for the king's eating. But as for the savages themselves, they ate human flesh raw. Yuck. Yuck. It's really yucky. When I saw this, I was sore dismayed for myself and my comrades, who were now become so stupefied that they knew not what was done with them. And the naked folk committed them to one who used every day to lead them out and pasture them on the island like cattle. And they wandered among the trees and rested at will, thus waxing very fat. As for me, I'd be in trouble, wouldn't I? Quite delicious too, cannibal. Taste of chicken and chocolate and hot chips and Jack Daniels. Don't tell them. As for me, I wasted away and became sickly for fear and hunger, and my flesh shrivelled on my bones, which, when the savages saw, they left me alone and took no thought of me, and so far, by the way, I only drink Jack Daniels once a week on a Friday, so I don't taste of that 7 days a week, just saying. Just wanted to clarify that point. I'm not an alcoholic in spite of what my former bitch GP wrote on my file and utterly discredited me, and also referred to me as a borderline too, the evil cow. She has no psychiatric training at all, tried to misdiagnose me. Then she tried to call my psychiatrist, authority and knowledge and diagnosis of me into question as to how dare you. He's a consultant psychiatrist specialising in adolescent child sexual abuse. He knows more about childhood trauma than you would know under the black of your little fingernail. How dare you attempt to discredit my doctor's knowledge base. Even she did a little shiver and wither in front of me then. The nerve of it. That's why she's no longer my doctor. When the COVID epoch came and she tried to push a certain product onto me, that's when we became avowed enemies. And I had to fire her. Dangerous is what she was, and no doubt still is. Dangerous. Left me without antibiotics in 2022 when I was nearly dying of a very bad chest infection. Tried to tell me my chest was clear. I'd been coughing up my lungs at that stage for 2 years, but I had a clear chest. What the fuck? Anyway, I'm glad I don't see that evil cow anymore. Ironically, the backhanded gift from the gods often works that way in psychedelic dreamers' world. She made me so fucking livid and angry and distrusting doctors that I had to heal myself with Marlene tea as recommended by one of my YouTube viewers. Thank you, Jim Carrington, wherever you are. Marlene tea was the shot, healed my lungs at that point in time. and Jackie Burns Bomber sent me bark flower remedies, and between those two remedies, those two humans healed me when I was very, 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 very desperately ill and actually thought I was going to die. And I knew I was in trouble when I coughed up black slime off my lungs because I had a mould infestation in the house as well, which is constantly growing back. I'll have to keep on top of that. When I coughed all that slime off my lungs, I realised the mullein tea was working and it had eradicated whatever was aggravating me constantly. And when I had my lung function test back in leading up to getting my CPAP machine, so I think that was in June, they said my lungs are quite healthy now. Astonishing. And I would have thought it was a barmicide or a delusion on their part, but I carry Ventolin with me everywhere I go. I've hardly had to use my inhalers this year. I think they're going to go out of date. I'm going to have to renew the script just so that they're fresh in case I do need them. But I've got a slight wheeze today. I can hear it's like, kind of slight shortness of breath. But I've hardly, in the last 2 years, since I was prescribed by that stranger on the internet, an angel, an earth angel, I've hardly had to resort to Ventolin and Serotype anymore. So it's astonishing, people of Earth. But it was because I got hellishly angry that cow was actively, by her medical neglect and her systemic abuse, actively killing me, actually. It was that fucking dangerous. So, hell no, Mama T refused to go. Anyway, he was wasting away and sickly for fear and hunger, and his flesh shriveled on his bones, which when the savages saw, they left me alone and took no thought of me, and so far forgot me, probably thinking that he was sick and unappetizing. That one day I gave them the slip, and walking out of their place made for the beach, which was distant. And there espied a very old man seated on a high place, girt by the waters. I looked at him and knew him for the herdsman, who had charge of pasturing my fellows, and with him were many others in like case. As soon as he saw me, he knew me to be in possession of my reason, and not afflicted like the rest, whom he was pasturing. So signed to me from afar, as who should say, turn back and take the right-hand road, for that will lead thee into the king's highway. So I turned back as he bade me, and followed the right-hand road, now running for fear, and then walking leisurely to rest me, till I was out of the old man's sight. By this time the sun had gone down and the darkness set in. So I sat down to rest, and would have slept, but sleep came not to me that night, for stress of fear and famine and fatigue. When the night was half spent, I rose and walked on, till the day broke in all its beauty, and the sun rose over the heads of the lofty hills, and athwart the low gravelly plains. Now I was weary and hungry and thirsty, so I ate my fill of herbs and grasses that grew in the island, and kept life in body, and stayed my stomach. After which I set out again, and fared on that day and the next night, staying my greed with roots and herbs. Nor did I cease walking for 7 days and their nights. till the morn of the 8th day, when I caught sight of a faint object in the distance. So I made towards it, though my heart quaked for all I had suffered first and last. And behold, it was a company of men gathering pepper grains. As soon as they saw me, they hastened up to me, and surrounding me on all sides said to me, Who art thou, and whence come? I replied, Know, O folk, that I am a poor stranger, and acquainted them with my case, and all the hardships and perils I had suffered. And the men gathering pepper in the island questioned me of my case. When I acquainted them with all the hardships and... I hate when they repeat that. Sorry, it just sends me into a little spiral of confusion. Whereat they marvelled... When I acquainted them with all the hardships and perils I had suffered, and how I had fled from the savages, whereat they marvelled, and gave me joy of my safety, which is the greatest joy of all, knowing that you're safe, isn't it, babies? By Allah, this is wonderful. How didst thou escape from these blacks who swarm in the island and devour all who fall in with them? Nor is any safe from them, nor can any get out of their clutches. And after I had told them the fate of my companions, they made me sit by them till they got quit of their work, and fetched me somewhat of a good food, which I ate, for I was hungry, and rested a while, after which they took ship with me, and carrying me to their island home, brought me before their king, who returned my salute, and received me honourably, and questioned me of my case. I told him all that had befallen me from the day of my leaving Baghdad city, whereupon he wondered with great wonder at my adventures, he and his courtiers, and bade me sit by him. Then he called for food, and I ate with him what sufficed me, and washed my hands, and returned thanks to Almighty Allah for all his favours, praising him and glorifying him. Then I left the king and walked with solace about the city, which I found wealthy and populous, abounding in market streets, well stocked with food and merchandise, and full of buyers and sellers. So I rejoiced at having reached so pleasant a place, and took my ease there after my fatigues, and I made friends with the townsfolk, nor was it long before I became more in honour and favour with them and their king than any of the chief men in their realm. Now I saw that all the citizens, great and small, rode fine horses, high-priced and thoroughbred, without saddles or housings, whereat I wondered and said to the king, Wherefore, O my lord, dost thou not ride with a saddle? Therein is ease for the rider and increase of power. I prefer to ride my horse bareback, actually. I think she liked it better too. Here's the postman. I might have to trim that tree. I notice he had to bend his head to avoid getting whacked in the face. I'll do him a kindness and trim that branch off later. Let's make life easy for, the workers of planet Earth in service to their own potential prosperity of working in the stinking heat in Brisbane, Australia. And also, he's a nice man. And also it'll help any other postman that takes over the route after him. So there is that. Just remind me that I have to do that later, because I'll forget. He'll keep having to dodge the macadamia nut tree, which has tiny little thorns too. So no, I really do need to trim that down a bit. Mind you, housing promised, the last inspection, Buranda Housing, promised that they would clear my guttering because I've got a small tree growing in my guttering, never turned up. So I have to call them and get them onto that before it totally ruins the roof. By the gods. What is a saddle? Asked he. I never saw nor used such a thing in all my life. And I answered, with thy permission I will make thee a saddle, that thou mayest ride on it and see the comfort thereof. And quoth he, do so. So quoth I to him, furnish me with some wood, which being brought, I sought me a clever carpenter, and sitting by him showed him how to make the saddle tree, portraying for him the fashion thereof in ink on the wood. Then I took wool and teased it and made felt of it, which is quite a bit of a task. I've tried felting. It's not as simple as that sounds, by the way. And covering, nothing is simple, is it? And covering the saddle tree with leather, stuffed it and polished it and attached the girth and stirrup leathers. After which I fetched a blacksmith and described to him the fashion of the stirrups and bridle bit. So he forged a fine pair of stirrups and a bit, and filed them smooth and tinned them. I wonder what he means by tinned them. Polish them? Moreover, I made fast to them fringes of silk and fitted bridle leathers to the bit. Then I fetched one of the best of the royal horses, and saddling and bridling him, hung the stirrups to the saddle, and led him to the king. The thing took his fancy, and he thanked me. Then he mounted and rejoiced greatly in the saddle, and rewarded me handsomely for my work. It's nice to have a saddle when you want to do proper trotting, because you can rise up in your saddle and go down, rise up. Whereas if you're riding bareback, you just bounced on your tuchus the entire time and you get a very sore tuchus, which means bottom, and it can be a bit uncomfortable. But cantering is more fun bareback because you're just sliding across the back of the horse, that kind of motion. I haven't ridden a horse since I was 20, before I migrated here to Brisbane. 23. I miss my horse. She was a wonderful friend. My mother referred to her as the giant pet, because that horse had me under her hoof, and I was actually her pet and very obedient to my horse. But anyway, she was a lovely animal. We had a really strong telepathic bond. I would always know when it was time to go and check on her. One time she was actually caught up in some wire, caught around her fetlock, and was a little bit injured and couldn't move and therefore couldn't eat or drink, and was trapped there, and I picked up on her distress telepathically one particular morning. I turned to my mother. I said, I have to go to Asfa. I have to go now. There's something wrong. My mother, being psychic herself, just looked at me in astonishment, but nodded and let me have her car, her Wolseley. So I was already driving. By then I would have been 16. And so I drove around to the adjustment paddock and climbed up into the hills, and actually using telepathy to work out where she was, because The horses could be anywhere. It was like open range, lots and lots of hills, and they could go for miles. So I was tuning into her, picking up her distress. And when I eventually came upon them, she was indeed lying down with wire, fencing wire, barbed wire caught around her fetlock. She just looked at me like it was the most normal thing that I should randomly show up at just that point in time, that I picked up on her signalling with distress. And the other horses bowed their heads and looked at me too, and I freed her with great difficulty from that wire. She got up on her feet and looked at me and said, "Well, girlfriend, you're going to have to walk all the way back to the front paddock, get you water and something to eat." So I led her very gingerly. It was about a long hour and a half hike back on her sore foot. And she stayed down at the front paddock for a few days because it must have been quite sore. She used to boot off back into the hills otherwise. Could never keep her down low at the front paddock normally. They would all run wild. But she stayed there for about 3 or 4 days, and I went to my mother. I said, "I have to call a vet, but I've got no money and I don't know what to do, but I worry that this thing will get infected or she'll get tetanus or something." "Don't worry, darling," my mother said. "I have some antibiotic foot powder." "How do you have that?" She said. "I had an abscess on my foot. It'll do the job. Go back and sprinkle that on her fetlock," which I did indeed do for the next couple of days. It healed like magic. Within 3 days, couldn't even see where the wire had cut into her skin. Horses heal very quickly. It's actually quite astonishing. I mean, not if they break their legs, but, from cuts and scrapes and things like that. Very amazing creatures are horses. If I ever won lotto, became very wealthy, and I'd probably get a horse again. But, yeah, anyway, distracted by that. When the king's wazir saw the saddle, he asked of me one like it, and I made it for him. Furthermore, all the grandees and officers of state came for saddles to me. So I fell to making saddles, having taught the craft to the carpenter and blacksmith, and selling them to all who sought, till I amassed great wealth, and became in high honour and great favour with the king and his household and grandees. I abode thus till one day, as I was sitting with the king in all respect and contentment, he said to me, "Know thou, O such an one, thou art become one of us, dear as a brother, and we hold thee in such regard and affection that we cannot part with thee, nor suffer thee to leave our city. Wherefore I desire of thee obedience in a certain matter, and I will not have thee gainsay me." Answered I, "O king, what is it thou desirest of me? Far be it from me to gainsay thee in aught, for I am indebted to thee for many favours and bounties and much kindness, and praised be Allah, I am become one of thy servants." Quoth he, "I have a mind to marry thee to a fair, clever and agreeable wife, who is wealthy as she is beautiful." Oh, so thou mayst be naturalized and domiciled with us. I will lodge with thee in my palace, wherefore oppose me not, neither cross me in this. When I heard these words, I was ashamed and held my peace, nor could make him any answer by reason of my much bashfulness before him. Asked he, "Why dost thou not reply to me, O my son?" And I answered, saying, O my master, it is thine to command, O King of the age. So he summoned the Kazi and the witnesses, and married me straightway to a lady of a noble tree and high pedigree, wealthy in moneys and means, the flower of an ancient race, of surpassing beauty and grace, and the owner of farms and estates, and many a dwelling place. Now, after the king, my master, had married me to this choice wife, he also gave me a great and goodly house standing alone, together with slaves and officers, and assigned me pay and allowances. So I became in all ease and contentment and delight, and forgot everything which had befalled me of weariness and trouble and hardship. For I loved my wife with fondest love, and she loved me no less, and we were as one, and abode in the utmost comfort of life and in its happiness. How delightful! And I said in myself, when I return my native land, I will carry her with me. Return to my native land, sorry. I will carry her with me, as one should when one is married. Don't just shuck someone off and leave them behind. That would be rude and dishonouring and just not bloody cricket. But whatso is predestined to a man, that needs must be, and none knoweth what shall befall him. We lived thus a great while, till Almighty Allah bereft one of my neighbours of his wife. Now he was a gossip of mine, so hearing the cry of the keeners, I went in to condole with him on his loss, and found him in very ill plight, full of trouble and weary of soul and mind. I condoled with him and comforted him, saying, mourn not for thy wife, who hath now found the mercy of Allah. The Lord will surely give thee a better in her stead, and thy name shall be great, and thy life shall be long in the land, Inshallah. But he wept bitter tears and replied, O my friend, how can I marry another wife, and how shall Allah replace her to me with a better than she, when I have but one day left to live? O my brother, said I, return to thy senses, and announce not the glad tidings of thine own death, for thou art well, sound, and in good case. By thy life, O my friend, rejoined he, tomorrow thou wilt lose me, and never wilt see me again till the day of resurrection. I asked, how so? And he answered, this very day they bury my wife, and they bury me with her in one tomb. For it is a custom with us, if the wife die first, to bury the husband alive with her, and in like manner the wife, if the husband die first, so that neither may enjoy life after losing his or her mate. By Allah, cried I, this is a most vile, lewd custom, and not to be endured of any. Meanwhile, behold, the most part of the townsfolk came in and fell to condoling with my gossip for his wife and for himself. Presently they laid the dead woman out as was their wont, and setting her on a bier, carried her and her husband without the city, meaning outside the city, borders, till they came to a place in the side of the mountain at the end of the island by the sea. And here they raised a great rock and discovered the mouth of a stone riveted pit or well, leading down into I don't know why my neck's hurting today. It's when I did this. I must have pinched it again. Dear Goddess. Well, it's my own stupid fault and I'm not complaining really. It's just irksome. Actually, when I did that, I think I shoved it back into place. Kind of, sort of, but not. Anyway, never mind. Mama T's learnt her lesson at long last. Foolish Mama T. Stupid as a stupid does, Mama T. It's not like she wasn't warned. Oh, you have to laugh. However, I had the presence of mind to avoid worse calamities, just saying, and that one was warned too, and no one listened to me either. So there you go. There, but for the grace of God, of all the gods go we, for not listening to sensible advice in a crisis. Into this pit they threw the corpse, then tying a rope of palm fibres under the husband's armpits, they let him down into the cavern, and with him a great pitcher of fresh water and 7 scones by way of viaticum. I think that means victuals or food. Only enough food to survive. 7 scones wouldn't go far with me, it'd last a day, but maybe it's meant to last them 7 days. When he came to the bottom, he loosed himself from the rope, and they drew it up, and stopping the mouth of the pit with the great stone, they returned to the city, leaving my friend in the cavern with his dead wife. When I saw this, I said to myself, by Allah, this fashion of death is more grievous than the first. And I went in to the king and said to him, O my lord, why do ye bury the quick with the dead? Quoth he, it hath been the custom, thou must know, of our forebears and our olden kings from time immemorial, if the husband die first, to bury his wife with him, and the like with the wife, so we may not sever them, alive or dead. I'm not liking that. We're all entitled to our lives, people of earth. I guess if you're so madly in love that you can't bear to be apart from each other, that you suicide together, although that's a bit fucking drastic. But I kind of understand that, oddly. I'm okay with that. But not having someone else say, well, your husband's dead, so now you have to die. No, that's just rude. I asked, it's just my opinion, of course. I asked, O King of the age, if the wife of a foreigner like myself die among you, deal ye with him as with yonder man? And he answered, assuredly we do with him even as thou hast seen. When I heard this, my gallbladder was like to burst for the violence of my dismay and concern for myself. I felt that in my no longer existing gallbladder. Still get ghost pains occasionally. My wit became dazed. I felt as if in a vile dungeon and hated their society, for I went about in fear lest my wife should die before me and they bury me alive with her, indeed. However, after a while, I comforted myself, saying, haply I shall predecease her, or shall have returned to my own land before she die. For none knoweth which shall go first, and which shall go last. He's already planning to abandon her when he goes back to Baghdad. Then I applied myself to diverting my mind from this thought with various occupations, but it was not long before my wife sickened and complained and took to her pillow and fared after a few days to the mercy of Allah. And the king and the rest of the folk came, as was their wont, to condole with me and her family and to console us for her loss, and not less to condole with me for myself. Then the women washed her, and arraying her in her richest raiment and golden ornaments, necklaces and jewelry, laid her on the bier, and bore her to the mountain aforesaid, where they lifted the cover of the pit and cast her in, after which all my intimates and acquaintances, and my wife's kith and kin, came round me to farewell me in my lifetime, and console me for my own death, whilst I cried out among them, saying, Almighty Allah never made it lawful to bury the quick with the dead. I am a stranger, not one of your kind, and I cannot abear your custom, and had I known it, I would never would have wedded among you. It's got a fair point. They could have told him that before they married him off. Gave him a choice, what the consequences might be. They heard me not, and paid no heed to my words, but, laying hold of me, bound me by force, and let me down into the cavern, with a large gugglet of sweet water, and 7 cakes of bread, according to their custom. When I came to the bottom, they called out to me to cast myself loose from the cords, but I refused to do so. So they threw them down on me, and, closing the mouth of the pit with the stones aforesaid, went their ways. I looked about me and found myself in a vast cave full of dead bodies that exhaled a fulsome and loathsome smell, and the air was heavy with the groans of the dying. Thereupon I fell to blaming myself for what I had done, saying, By Allah, I deserve all that hath befallen me, and all that shall befall me. What curse was upon me to take a wife in this city? There is no majesty, and there is no might, save in Allah, the glorious, the great. As often as I say, I have escaped from one calamity, I fall into a worse. By Allah, this is an abominable death to die. Would heaven I had died a decent death, and been washed and shrouded like a man and a Muslim. Would I had been drowned at sea, or perished in the mountains. 'Twere better than to die this miserable death. And on such wise I kept blaming my own folly and greed of grain in that black hole, knowing not night from day, and I ceased not to ban the foul fiend, and to bless the Almighty Friend. Then I threw myself down on the bones of the dead and lay there, imploring Allah's help, and in the violence of my despair, invoking death, which came not to me, till the fire of hunger burned my stomach and thirst set my throat aflame, when I sat up and, feeling for the bread, ate a morsel, and upon it swallowed a mouthful of water. After this, the worst night I ever knew, I arose, and exploring the cavern, found that it extended a long way with hollows in its sides, and its floor was strewn with dead bodies and rotten bones that had lain there from olden time. So I made myself a place in a cavity of the cavern, afar from the corpses lately thrown down, and there slept. I abode thus a long while, till my provision was like to give out, and yet I ate not save once every day or second day, nor did I drink more than an occasional draught, for fear my victual should fail me before my death. And I said to myself, eat little and drink little, belike the Lord shall vouchsafe deliverance to thee. One day, as I sat thus, pondering my case, and bethinking me how I should do, when my bread and water should be exhausted, behold, the stone that covered the opening was suddenly rolled away, and the light streamed down upon me. Quoth I wonder what is the matter. Haply they have brought another corpse. Then I espied folk standing about the mouth of the pit, who presently let down a dead man and a live woman, weeping and bemoaning herself, and with her an ampler supply of bread and water than usual. I saw her, and she was a beautiful woman, but she saw me not, and they closed up the opening and went away. Then I took the leg bone of a dead man, and going up to the woman, smote her on the crown of the head, and she cried one cry and fell down in a swoon. I smote her a second and third time till she was dead, when I laid hands on her bread and water, and found on her great plenty of ornaments and rich apparel, necklaces, jewels, and gold trinkets, for it was their custom to bury women in all their finery. I carried the vivers to my sleeping place in the cavern side, and ate and drank of them sparingly, no more than sufficed to keep the life in me, lest the provaunt come speedily to an end, and I perish of hunger and thirst. Yet did I never wholly lose hope in Almighty Allah. I abode thus a great while, killing all the live folk they let down into the cavern, and taking their provisions of meat and drink, till one day, as I slept, I was awakened by something scratching and burrowing among the bodies in a corner of the cave, and said, what can this be, fearing wolves or hyenas? So I sprang up, and seizing the leg bone aforesaid, made for the noise. As soon as the thing was ware of me, it fled from me into the inward of the cavern, and lo, it was a wild beast. However, I followed it to the further end, till I saw afar off a point of light, not bigger than a star, now appearing and then disappearing. So I made for it, and as I drew near, it grew larger and brighter, till I was certified that it was a crevice in the rock leading to the open country, and I said to myself, there must be some reason for this opening. Either it is the mouth of a second pit, such as that by which they let me down, or else it is a natural fissure in the stonery. So I bethought me a while, and nearing the light, found that it came from a breach in the back side of the mountain, which the wild beasts had enlarged by burrowing, that they might enter and devour the dead and freely go to and fro. When I saw this, my spirits revived, and hope came back to me, and I made sure of life after having died a death. So I went on as in a dream, and making shift to scramble through the breach, found myself on the slope of a high mountain, overlooking the salt sea, and cutting off all access thereto from the island, so that none could come at that part of the beach from the city. I praised my Lord and thanked him, rejoicing greatly and heartening myself with the prospect of deliverance. Then I returned through the crack to the cavern, and brought out all the food and water I had saved up, and donned some of the dead folks' clothes over my own, after which I gathered together all the collars and necklaces of pearls and jewels and trinkets of gold and silver set with precious stones, and other ornaments and valuables I could find upon the corpses, and, making them into bundles with the grave clothes and raiment of the dead, carried them out to the back of the mountain facing the seashore, where I established myself, purposing to wait there till it should please Almighty Allah to send me relief by means of some passing ship. I keep being distracted. You notice I keep looking at my earrings? I'll tell you why, what I'm trying to figure out. I keep trying to work it out, and every now and then I think about it and I change my mind and I think about it. But these little Matryoshka doll earrings have a baby. See the little baby? Oh. And I keep glancing up because I'm thinking of I'd have to drill into the bottom of that. I'd probably have to glue that permanently down so it doesn't come apart anymore. And I'm thinking of drilling a little hole in the top of the baby's head and then attaching a chain and then hanging her from that, so the mother and the baby are joined together by sterling. I'll make it in sterling silver chain, and then that way she'll hang like she's hanging off a mama. Or I could put a chain around the Matryoshka's neck and hang the baby off like that, but then she'd hang at an angle. What do you think, people of Earth? I mean, it's just a bit of nonsense, but I think I should do that. I've talked myself out of it several times, but looking at it, it'd be kind of cute, having the baby hanging down. They didn't sell. I made 2 pairs. This is my own personal pair. But the other ones didn't sell. I think I've got a pair without babies. So I don't know. But I'm intrigued by the idea of hanging a baby off. Because I'm a mother and I'll never be a grandmother, so it's sympathetic magic, to be honest. That's what I'm really doing. Sympathetic magic. Mad mama tea. Sometimes it gets a bit bonkers even by my standards, but I think it would look cute. It would make them a bit longer because the baby would hang down here. But anyway, I might do it. I might maybe just hang one baby down. No, we have to have symmetry. But I might do it. Anyway, sorry, little inspirations and muses come to me, while I'm doing this, because my mind goes on all sorts of little whirling dervishes and moshing, twirling Sufi type manifestations and dances. Anyway, what can I say? It's getting worse as I age too. I used to be a lot more, focused and rigid in my thinking. Concrete, as my former friend Gail used to refer to me. I'm still a bit concrete at times. Not very good with abstractions. But anyway, if you want to tell me something, you have to be direct, open and honest. Get to the point. Don't give me hints and allegations and insinuations and all sorts of vague, kind of nebulous, illusory things, because I don't get it. I just get confused. I don't know what's going on. Too much brain damage from too many near deaths, including in childhood, when my brain was wired this way. So I've been like this since childhood. I notice I'm getting a little bit more and more flubbery recent months, and I don't know what that's about actually. It worries me a little bit, to be honest. But let's be fair, I am 60 in April. It's like my brain's going to have to activate my brain. I'm going to have to do more puzzles, and I'm going to have to fucking rewire. I'm going to have to do more creative things, like dream of new ways of making earrings and remaking things. Be super creative, because I have to keep this grey matter in peak performance. I do not want. No one does. No one actively chooses that, actually. But I really do not want Alzheimer's or dementia. It's instant suicide for me. It will be not a self-righteous suicide. It will be a fucking defiant suicide. Fuck that shit. After watching what my mother went through, hell no, I won't go. Just saying. Anyway, it's a moment of panic that came over me because I lived it, watching my mother's decline. It wasn't good. None of that was good. So you'll have to forgive me when I get my mad suicidal ideations based on having lived through that reality and knowing that that's not a reality I would ever wish upon any living soul. Anyway, continue on reading. That's why I want my true love and my passion and my romance, and I want it all now, because it's I've waited 59 and a half years, and how much time is allotted to me, people of Earth. But I have to be conscious that it has to be a real man with real heart and real love for me, and that'll be there for me until we get old, and both of us together, both aging, probably disgracefully, together. It's a romantic idea in my head, and it's, I haven't been able to make it a reality, let's face it, but I hold on to the psychedelic dream. I hold on to my dreaming. What else have I got to look forward to? Potential fucking dementia or some other ignoble demise. Live now, live beautifully, love the ones who love you back. Seriously, I seriously mean that. By the gods. Anyway, here we go. Thus I abode a long while by the sea, pondering my case, till one day I caught sight of a ship passing in the midst of the clashing sea, swollen with dashing billows. So he killed all the folk that were buried alive in that cavern. Did I read that part? I can't remember. I'm losing it. See, I'm drifting off. This is what I do. It's a worry, isn't it? It's a worry. Well, back in the room, psychedelic dreamer. Here I stand, present and accounted for, little Tanya. On we go. So I took a piece of a white shroud. I'm getting hungry too. I think that's part of the problem too. So I know, very primal. I control my primal urges most of the time. But when I get hungry, it can get a bit astonishing. So I took a piece of white shroud I had with me and, tying it to a staff, ran along the seashore, making signals therewith and calling to the people in the ship, till they espied me and, hearing my shouts, sent a boat to fetch me off. When it drew near, the crew called out to me, saying, "Who art thou, and how camest thou to be on this mountain? Whereon never saw we any in our born days." I answered, "I'm a gentleman and a merchant, who hath been wrecked and saved myself on one of the planks of the ship, with some of my goods, and by the blessing of the Almighty, and the decrees of destiny, and my own strength and skill, after much toil and moil, I have landed with my gear in this place, where I waited some passing ship to take me off." So they took me in their boat, together with the bundles I had made of the jewels and valuables from the cavern, tied up in clothes and shrouds, and rowed back with me to the ship, where the captain said to me, "How camest thou, O man, to yonder place and yonder mountain, behind which lieth a great city? All my life I have sailed these seas, and passed to and fro hard by these heights. Yet never saw I here any living thing, save wild beasts and birds." I repeated to him the story I had told the sailors, but acquainted him with nothing of that which had befallen me in the city and the cavern, lest there should be any of the islandry in the ship. Then I took out some of the best pearls I had with me, and offered them to the captain, saying, "O my lord, thou hast been the means of saving me off this mountain. I have no ready money, but take this from me in requital of thy kindness and good offices." But he refused to accept it of me, saying, "When we find a shipwrecked man on the seashore on an island, we take him up and give him meat and drink, and if he be naked, we clothe him, and nor take we aught from him. Nay, when we reach a port of safety, we set him ashore with a present of our own money, and entreat him kindly and charitably, for the love of Allah, the Most High." Noble and hospitable and gracious indeed. So I prayed that his life be long in the land, and rejoiced in my escape, trusting to be delivered from my stress, and to forget my past mishaps. For every time I remembered being let down into the cave with my dead wife, I shuddered in horror. Then we pursued our voyage and sailed from island to island and sea to sea, till we arrived at the island of the Bell, which containeth a city 2 days' journey in extent, whence, after a 6 days' run, we reached the island Kala, hard by the land of Hind, which is India. This place is governed by a potent and puissant people of earth, king, and it produceth excellent camphor and an abundance of the Indian rattan. Here also is a lead mine. At last, by the decree of Allah, we arrived in safety at Basora town, where I tarried a few days, then went on to Baghdad city, and, finding my quarter, entered my house with lively pleasure. There I foregathered with my family and friends, who rejoiced in my happy return and gave me joy of my safety. I laid up in my storehouses all the goods I had brought with me, and gave alms and largesse to fakirs and beggars, and clothed the widow and the orphan. Then I gave myself up to pleasure and enjoyment, returning to my old merry mode of life. Such then be the most marvellous adventures of my 4th voyage. But tomorrow, if you will kindly come to me, babies, I will tell you that which befell me in my 5th voyage, which was yet rarer and more marvellous than those which forewent it. And thou, O my brother Sinbad the landsman, shall sup with me as thou art wont, saith he who telleth the tale. When Sinbad the sailor had made an end of his story, he called for supper, so they spread the table, and the guests ate the evening meal, after which he gave the porter 100 dinars as usual, and he and the rest of the company went their ways, glad at heart and marvelling at the tales they had heard. The porter Sinbad passed the night in his own house, in all joy and cheer and wonderment, and as soon as morning came with its sheen and shone, he prayed the dawn prayer and repaired to the house of Sinbad the sailor, who welcomed him and bade him sit with him till the rest of the company arrived, when they ate and drank and made merry, and the talk went round amongst them. Presently their host began the narrative of the 5th voyage of Sinbad the sailor. Now let's see, if it's not too long, I'll continue, but I think it's going to be as long as this one was, and I'm tired. I'm tired, people of earth. Yes, I think it's even longer than this one. So we are, no, I'm wrong, because that's the 6th. Shall I continue, or shall I stop and rest and continue tomorrow? Decisions. Tomorrow, I think. I know, it's disappointing, I know. But when we finish the tale of Sinbad the sailor, we still have a great deal to be reading by all the gods. this much. So I don't even know if I want to keep continuing reading all the tales in this book, because it's a lot, people of Earth. Maybe we should mix it up and have a bit of variety and read other things too. What do you think? You can put it in the comments section if you want me to persevere and read the book in its entirety, or if we should mix it up. But Mama T, the Tanya, the psychedelic dreamer, likes variety in her intellectual pursuits and in her diet, not in her sexual life, because I'm a one man woman, one man at a time woman, and I don't like confusion or too many people demanding of my attention. It gets fucking weird, and I have to chew my arm off, people of Earth, maintain my freedom and my body autonomy and my sanguinity and my safety. So if I fall in love with a man, I'm his for however long that love endures. Hopefully he's mine too, although historically that always turned to shit pretty early in the piece, which is why I'm very gun shy and nervous and utterly terrified. Never had a real love before in my life, so never in real terms, never ever ever. So it's why I actively stay on my own, just as a matter of sheer fucking survival, quite frankly. But I delight in the sweetness of the ones who do show consistent, sweet, agape love towards me, and I'm grateful for that at least. So blown life back into me and shown me of what's possible one fine day when I know categorically, for sure, for certain, by his actions and deeds and words and energy, who is the one, my one, at long last. I know that sounds like romantic schoolgirl fantasies, but could happen one day. So Goddess bless. Have a beautiful day wherever you are in the space-time continuum, and I'm going to go and make something for lunch because I'm quite hungry indeed. It's astonishing. So big agape love, aroha nui, to all my YouTube subscribers and viewers and those across time and space, planet Earth, and across all dimensions who stumble across my rather eccentric videos, but stay with me for the duration. Watch me move in and out of ordinary reality as I flubberize with exhaustion and mild dissociative states, and who love me anyway, and in respectful, honouring ways. So Goddess bless. Have a lovely day, and I'll be back tomorrow with the 5th voyage of Sinbad the Sailor. Bye for now.